Every single day, approximately 21 million barrels of crude oil slide through the waters of the Persian Gulf. Accounting for roughly 20% of global petroleum consumption, these routes are a geographical destiny for Asian economies. At its tightest point, this artery narrows to barely 21 miles across. A blockage here triggers inflation that threatens financial stability worldwide. The daily headlines fixate entirely on the water, the massive oil tankers, and overlapping military radar. Because we are so hyper-focused on the shipping lanes, we often overlook the landforms rising right next to them. While modern civilization obsesses over keeping the water open for constant international trade, the flanking islands have spent centuries perfecting the mechanics of physical survival under the most extreme conditions on Earth. The environment here is completely hostile. Summer temperatures exceed 122 degrees Fahrenheit. The humidity is relentlessly oppressive, and the surrounding seawater is so saline it should behave as a biological dead zone. Yet, rising out of this climate is a surreal, 570 million-year-old geological theater. Massive salt domes push through the crust, surrounded by iron-rich red soil, making the coastline look like a piece of Mars dropped into the ocean. This punishing landscape has spent millennia forcing life to adapt or die. Because of that intense, unrelenting pressure, local ecosystems have engineered brilliant evolutionary solutions. Human inhabitants have also engineered solutions to the exact resource and heat crises the rest of the world is only just beginning to confront. The Strait of Hormuz offers humanity a direct, living preview of the extreme environmental pressures we will likely face in the coming decades. To understand this endurance, look closely at the marine biology of the Gulf. During the summer, water temperatures hit a blistering 96 degrees Fahrenheit. At that level, complex coral reef systems should not be able to function. This chart illustrates the anomaly. On the left is the standard thermal threshold where most corals experience mass bleaching and death. On the right, Hormuz corals operate at a significantly higher baseline, developing unique heat tolerance over thousands of years. Along the shoreline, the Hara forest mangroves perform a similar physiological trick. Their roots actively pull in near totally saline water, filtering out the lethal salt crystals and pumping only fresh water up into the tree canopy. These systems thrive by transforming harshness into a resource. They engineer the nutrient-rich nurseries that support more than 700 fish species, sustaining coastal protein supplies across the entire Gulf. The human inhabitants of the strait mirrored this biological resilience on land. Long before the invention of modern machinery, ancient cultures engineered brilliant methods for passive cooling and water conservation. The solution to lethal summer heat is the badger wind tower. By capturing high-altitude breezes, it channels cool air downward through internal baffles, forcing stagnant, hot air out. This geometry drops indoor temperatures by 20 degrees without a single watt of power. Water required the same level of generational discipline. In a landscape that generates almost no fresh water of its own, villages dug 366 individual stone wells, rotating them so each one was used only once a year to prevent depleting the reserves. This infrastructure is a perfected, systemic survival technology. It evolved through centuries of iteration by communities who knew that failure meant heat death. This connection to the environment even dictates the clothing. The burqa masks worn by local women are, first and foremost, a survival technology. In a landscape where the sun reflects off salt water with lethal intensity, the mask serves as a physical barrier against extreme UV exposure. Over a lifetime of outdoor work, this barrier prevents the severe skin damage that would otherwise be inevitable. Out in the dry shipyards, you see the same reliance on inherited knowledge. Craftsmen build massive, oceanic linge vessels entirely by hand, relying strictly on spatial memory to navigate the Gulf's shallow depths and complex winds, without ever looking at a paper blueprint. Everything here, from facial wear to monumental wooden shipbuilding, acts as a codified record. The culture itself is an instruction manual on how to navigate and endure a lethal landscape. Today, that deep-time biological and human endurance sits right alongside the frantic, relentless movement of the massive supertankers passing offshore. It creates a tragic irony. The millennia of natural adaptation that defined life on these islands are now buckling under the intense pressure of the very industry that makes the strait internationally famous. Heat-resistant corals and wind-cooling architecture are perfectly calibrated to geological time, but they possess absolutely no biological or structural defense against sudden, catastrophic oil spills and rapid industrial contamination. Survival is a mechanism, and mechanisms can be broken. The ecosystems and people of Hormuz built their existence by enduring extremes, rather than waiting for a crisis to arrive. As global climates shift, this fragile corridor quietly asks if the rest of the world is paying attention.